So this last part of the show, as I am nearing the end of it, I want to talk about just some things that are coming up. For starters, I actually, when I went to go pick up my Honko, which it was being held at the post office, probably because it was an international shipment, so they weren't willing or able to deliver it to my door, but that's irrelevant. But when I went there to pick it up, I also decided to ask about a passport application. So now I have one of those. Now I don't have the passport itself, I just have the application, but I am starting that process as well, because at some point I'm going to need a freaking passport. And the last time that I tried to get one was right after I changed my name. And if you want to hear the full story on changing my name, just check episode 6 of the podcast. But right after I changed my name, they were wary of giving me a passport. They needed like some extra verification, something that eventually I decided was not worth it. And I kind of just didn't give up on it. I just kind of didn't bother with it. And I haven't traveled outside of the country since then. I mean, I've actually technically only been out of the country once, and that was just to basically cross the Washington border into Vancouver, British Columbia, which, you know, for that we were like 18, so I think all we needed was a birth certificate. We didn't necessarily need a passport. So that was fine. But I know if I'm going to be traveling out of the country at any point now, I will need a passport for that. So I decided that I just need to kind of get that process started. But I'll probably wait a little bit to actually get the application until my hair gets a little longer. Only because, like, I don't know, I'm not necessarily happy with how it looks right now, but it's part of my hair pledge. And I figure I'll just wait till it's long enough that I can just kind of pull it back in a ponytail, and, you know, then at least it'll just sort of be like a standard look for, you know, the next few years afterwards. And then maybe, I don't know, revise it when I get a haircut or something. But anyway, I just figured I'd mention that, you know, and as I kind of go through that process, I'll probably update on future episodes. So keep an eye or ear out for that. And I'm still working on this Teach Learn series that I want to do, talking about learning kanji. I actually, you know, as I mentioned, I did 2 videos earlier before I started recording this show. And one of them was talking about flashcards that I bought, and I'm using that in accordance with other resources to start to get research done for the kanji show that I want to do. I figure as long as I'm well prepared, that I have the information that I need to do these episodes properly, then, you know, it should go off without a hitch. But I'm still working on that. As far as when the first episode will get done, I really don't know. It may end up being a summer project, depending. I mean, we're in March already, so there's still 2 months left, roughly of the semester before we're done and off to doing our summer thing. So I may wait until then. I don't know. Again, it all kind of depends on when I really get the hang of all this video stuff. So, you know, stay tuned for that. It's still coming. I will be sure to bring updates, in future episodes. And as always, like I said, keep an eye on the Twitter feed, because anytime videos are up and published and everything, you know, a post goes out to Twitter. So, if you're following the account, you'll see it right then and there. So, the last thing I want to mention before I wrap up for today is, I try to keep my job out of the show as much as possible, just because, well, for one thing, I don't like talking about my job. I dedicated an episode to my work history, and I kind of wanted to leave it at that. But there are times where, my things that happen at my job kind of inspire things to talk about on the show. Maybe in regards to, why I don't like the industry that I work in, or why I'm so motivated to do the show or be in school. A lot of that does center around my job, not necessarily the specific job that I have, but like I said, it's just the line of work, the industry that I work in. And it's something kind of nothing major typically happens at my job, and this is no exception, really. But it just was something that happened that kind of made me a bit more aware of what seems to be going on around me. And it's just that, like, there's constant miscommunication between usually people in leadership positions at my job. And that's one thing that just baffles me, is why companies would allow this to happen. And I don't know, maybe it has to do with like the size of them. Once you get to like a large number of employees, there's just this constant miscommunication happening. I don't know. That's just a guess, but it happens a lot. And sometimes it happens between like the shifts at work. So like right now we have a daytime shift and then we have a nighttime shift. And a lot of times, someone on the night shift, or second shift as we like to call it, will usually take over for whatever you're doing. But there's like this, again, there's like no communication going on. And so a lot of things end up being assumed, and then that also leads to like minor arguments and stuff. And it just it's really frustrating, especially when I'm the one that's kind of at the core of it, as far as like, one guy will come up to me and say like, well, so and so said that you were going to do this or finish that or whatever. And I said, well, that conversation never happened. So I made no such promises, because I didn't say anything to that person like the whole day. And, I would say like, and I mean, the person that this guy was talking about is a peer, or at least according to the stratosphere of management, he is supposed to be on equal level with this person. They're supposed to be considered to be in the same position. So I told him, I said, well, you should speak to that person and let them know that they need to not, make stuff up like that, because I can't do anything. They don't give a rat's ass about what I have to say. Especially with this person, because that person thinks that everybody is completely beneath him, except for basically anyone that's above him. So he constantly is just looking down on everyone. But I was telling the guy in charge of me that, it's his job to kind of clear things up like that. And he just doesn't want to do it. And like it I don't even know what it is. But I just feel like management just kind of creates this sort of, I don't know, cowardice. Like it's almost feels like a fear. Like he's afraid to do his job, which then makes me wonder why he's doing that job in the first place if he's not willing to do things like that. Because as far as I'm concerned, that's part of what he needs to do. So I mean, it's just something that bothers and kind of baffles me a little bit as to why this is allowed to happen. But at the same time, maybe this is why I'm not in some kind of leadership position, because maybe there's something I don't understand about it that that would just create a bunch of trouble or something. I don't know. But it just seems like it, especially the higher management just creates all these cowards below, and then people like me that are willing to, actually say something about it, just kind of get shot down immediately. Like, you shouldn't say stuff like that. What are you doing? It's like actually an interesting link to what I just learned in sociology this week, is that we're talking about like gangs and groups and cliques and basically talking about like conformity, and the corporate structure a lot of times is this kind of weird level of conformity and even an odd sense of loyalty, which that I never understood. I don't understand why some people are just so blindly loyal to the companies that they work for. It really doesn't make any sense to me. And I say it time and time again. It's like, I'm really just here to earn a paycheck. I really don't, I don't necessarily care about the company. If I'm being told to wear a shirt that has like the logo on it, I make sure to cover it up when I leave work, because I'm also not going to be like a walking advertisement for them. They can go pull something out on, I don't know, Google Ads or something. If they want to advertise and pimp their stuff, that's where they do it. They're not going to use me to do that. If anything, it would work against them, because if someone did see the shirt I was wearing and be like, "Oh, you work at blah 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 place, what's it like?" and I'd just be like, "No, it's a terrible place to work at, and we don't really put quality into the stuff that we make." I'd just be saying like bad things about where I work, so it would actually work not in their favor to force me to do something like that, which they can't really do, obviously. It's my choice what to do with myself once I leave those doors. But it's just something that frustrates me, and that might have just been 5 minutes of me talking out of my ass, but it's just like this stream of thought that I have when I'm at work. Especially sometimes when we are given some of the most boring stuff to do. It's just this mindless cycle over and over again, just doing the same thing repeatedly throughout the whole day. You eventually just kind of tune out what you're doing. I've been doing this for 8 years, so at this point there's not really a ton to learn necessarily, which is part of the reason why I'm getting out of the industry, is because I'm not learning anything and I kind of get bored. So like a lot of times when I'm doing that just ridiculously repetitive motions at work, I just my brain sort of goes onto autopilot with muscle memory, and I just like I'm following the motions, but inside here, like my mind is elsewhere. Like I'm thinking about school, I'm thinking about the show. I'm anywhere but at my place of work, which sometimes works in my favor, because it can, depending on what I'm thinking about. If I'm really thinking about like how to improve my videos and my audio and stuff like that, it can actually eat up a lot of time as I'm thinking stuff through. Like all of a sudden it'll be like, oh, I didn't realize it was time for break or time for lunch or time to go home. There are times where that stuff sneaks up on me. Usually I'm, I consider myself not necessarily a machinist. I call myself a clock watcher, because that's all we do. We just, especially like if we have a long cycle on a machine, we're just sitting there, watching the clock. And as anyone probably knows, that the more you stare at a clock, the slower you feel it moves. So it usually doesn't work in our favor to do that. So I try not to. This is why I think about like other stuff. A lot of times I'm jotting notes down for things to talk about on the show, which is a good piece of advice that I can give to anyone who's looking to like start some kind of show of their own. If you want to eventually become a YouTuber as well, that might be a good strategy to do, is just grab a blank piece of paper, and as you think about things to talk about, just write them down really quick. Just something to keep in mind. And the other thing that also really irritates me about my job is that, now I don't know if this happens in other industries or other lines of work. I think it usually does. But a lot of times the upper management will bring in a group of people. Now, as far as what these groups of people are, what they do or what they represent or whatever, I don't know. But they're usually given tours of the shop. Now, obviously, this happens usually more during the daytime shift because that's like normal business hours. During, I've worked nights before, and that typically doesn't happen during nights. But what always bothers me is that it always feels like I feel like I'm a zoo animal when tours are coming through, because it's basically like the people leading them around, which is like people in management. It's almost like I can hear them say like, don't talk to the machinists because they'll get distracted and they're really stupid. So if you talk to them, you're just going to keep them from doing their work, and they might poop in your hand or something. I mean, it's just really, really dumb. And I feel like there's a loss of connection with between the people taking the tour and us, because I feel like, because occasionally they will go up to someone's machine and they will grab one of the parts that they're making, they will show it to them and show it to the group, I should say. Have them pass it around and look at it, and they might talk about like, oh, the lathe and whatever, whereas they could actually communicate with the person running the machine who also knows more about that end of it, and they could say like, here's Jim, he runs the this mill over here, and this is the part he's making. Say hi, Jim. And, he's like, oh, and says hello or whatever, and might even talk about the part real quick. I mean, it's not, obviously it doesn't necessarily need to be a scripted thing or whatever, but I think we can spend a minute or two talking about the parts that we're making, and it kind of livens up our day a little bit, gets us to interact with someone other than the a-holes that we all work with. I'm not saying that everyone I work with is an a-hole, but some of them are. But I mean, it's just it just really drives me crazy. I mean, because I wish I could show to these people, because I do feel that as these groups walk around, that they just kind of look down on us a little bit, that they just assume that we're all just complete morons that couldn't do any better in life, so this is all that we got. And I mean, to a degree, I kind of feel that way around about some of the coworkers that I have, and that kind of is the end of the line for them. But I wish it was just like we at least had the ability to say like, no, I am an intelligent human being. I can say, I mean, I'm not necessarily saying I want to tell them like, I have a great GPA in college right now, I'm going to be a teacher someday. I mean, obviously that's not going to come up. But just to say that, some of us can be well spoken and, show that we're knowledgeable about what we're doing and we're not just a button pusher, It just, I don't know. I always tell my coworkers whenever tours come through that, oh, they're coming to look at the cattle again, and we're the cattle, and we're just, sitting here munching on grass and just kind of just pushing buttons and stuff. So, it's just a frustration I have, and it's something I definitely will not miss once I get out of the industry. Just that lack of connection between us and the outside world, as it were. And I mean, that loss of connection also comes up even when I'm trying to talk about my job. I can't even talk about my job to other people because people don't know anything about it. And that's not to say that they're dumb or anything. It's just that, like, it's just kind of the way things are set up. It's like they just sort of close us off to the rest of the world. The only time you can talk about your job is with someone else that also does that job, or at least does something kind of in that field or whatever. So it's just a frustration that I have. And this show is sort of like a place to voice my frustration about it. So hopefully, that wasn't too terrible. If you turn off the show, then I can understand why, because I mean, nobody really wants to turn on a show to hear someone complain about stuff all the time. But I mean, like I said, this is why I don't really necessarily want to put a lot of discussion about my job in the show, but I feel it has some relevance sometimes when I mention stuff like this. So, you know, take it for what it's worth. You know, if you have any thoughts about that, you can always write in, email at theroadtojapan.com, or you can let me know on Twitter at theroadtojapan, or you can go to the Facebook page like Matt did and leave some feedback there. Or you can also go on, you know, on the YouTubes and, you know, leave a comment there on this video or any other video that you see. You know, let me know what's going on. Let me know what you think. It'll hopefully help me improve the quality of the show and of the videos and all this stuff. And I just real quick want to make another mention. I'm going to keep mentioning this until, you know, that weekend that MGC is coming up. So as I said, it's the Midwest Gaming Classic. It's going to be happening in Brookfield, Wisconsin at the Sheraton there. It's a huge show. If you're of the nerdy, if you're the nerdy type of person, you know, you like yourself some video games and pinball, this is a great show to check out. I obviously will be there. I have my weekend pass all ready to go. So I'm looking forward to it, and I will have business cards there. I'm thinking about, like, I'm not exactly sure how I could do it, but I'm debating bringing the camera with me, maybe a microphone, maybe my recorder, and seeing if I could splice something together. I may just, you know, bring the camera and just do like some kind of handy cam footage, you know, just kind of showing off the show floor, because I mean, people always going around and you know, just showing stuff off with their cameras, and it seems to be completely okay. So I may do that. I may compile a video, you know, showing the various things throughout the show. And there's a lot to check out. So I mean, if you happen to be in the Milwaukee area over the weekend of I'm sorry, I don't know the exact weekend. I think it's like late April, the third weekend of April, I think, is when it's happening. I'll have the actual date for the next show. But yeah, if you're going to be in the area and you want to meet up and hang out or whatever, let me know. I know one of my friends, he's a listener of the show, and I mean, he and I have already met at MGC several times, but he wanted to mention, like, hey, I'm going to be at the show, we're going to hang out. I was like, okay, you know, that was kind of expected, but you know, thanks for letting me know. But if you out there are planning on being in the area and I haven't had any contact with you yet, do get a hold of me. Let me know, you know, especially if you're a listener of the show. I'd love to hang out with some audience members, maybe get some feedback one-on-one. You know, hopefully it'll all help improve the show. And if you want to talk about stuff, you know, even in past episodes, you're more than welcome to. And that also goes for any of the online correspondence, so comments, tweets, emails, whatever. If you want to talk about past episode content, you're more than welcome to. I'm not gonna consider anything too old to talk about. So if you still want to talk about like why I started the show, which, you know, I kind of touched on in episode 1, then you're more welcome to. So anyway, I've done enough talking here. I'm already going well over an hour, so I'm going to call it good here. So until next time, minasan, ganbatte.